Good afternoon, guys. How are you all doing? Hope you're enjoying your weekend and this glorious sunshine which continues. We are so spoiled this spring. It's amazing. In fact, I feel like I shouldn't be inside. I should be outside, like pottering in the garden or tidying up the stable yard or just doing something outside. In fact, I was doing that this morning. I was emptying out my hay barn, which is why my hair looks a bit like this. And I still look quite rosy cheeked because it's quite a workout. There was a lot of hay that needed shifting. So I did at least get that done this morning. We are taking a step back from videos about war horses. Obviously the last two videos were on that. I think we'll definitely come back to the topic. We're just gonna have something else for a couple of weeks. I thought we'd talk about the history of Exmoor ponies. They've been around a very long time. I don't think I quite realised how old the breed is. And also the reason for doing it is I have this picture. Most of the time I just end up with a reflection and you can just see the messy desk that I'm currently sat at. But this is a picture of my grandma who sadly passed away last year. And this is her Exmoor pony that she had as a child. And this is hooked up just above my desk. And I keep looking at her thinking I must do a video on Exmoor ponies. I think they're the most gorgeous breed. And typical for me, as soon as I've done research on a particular breed, I then want it. Like with the Shetland pony, I was like, now I want a Shetland pony. And now I'm like, I'd really like an Exmoor pony. They're stunning and probably a breed that really hasn't changed massively over the years. But anyway, I'm going to tell you a lot more about them. So let's get into the video. So as I said, Exmoor ponies are one of the oldest British pony breeds. The first wild pony came from Alaska about 130,000 years ago and were distributed throughout the UK, living alongside the woolly mammoths. Their predator back then would have been the saber-toothed tiger and later on, man. The first written record of ponies being on Exmoor was in the Domesday Book and then medieval records. Stone Age hunters would have hunted the ponies for food, but they would have used every part of the ponies. So they would have eaten their meat, they would have used their skins for clothes and their fats to kind of help them survive winter. And it wasn't until the Celts and when they settled in Britain did we start to see that these ponies were being tamed and trained, and the Celts used them to pull their chariots. Now, I know that the Exmoor pony wasn't always known as the Exmoor pony, and that's a kind of more modern name for them. And I believe, and I could be wrong here, so let me know in the comments if you know differently, but they were called the British Hill pony, but they were kind of part of a broader group of ponies. Exmoor used to be a royal forest. This was from 1410 AD to 1818 when it was sold, so it was reserved as a hunting ground for the king. When it was sold, the last warden took 30 ponies and founded the Ackland herd, now known as the Anchor herd, running on Winsford Hill. Local farmers also brought several of the herds of ponies in a dispersal sale. The new owner of Exmoor tried crossing the ponies to improve them, which initially worked, but then the herd started to dwindle and die out. If we fast forward to 1921, those that were involved with the Ackland herd and foundation herds were worried that the true purebred Exmoor ponies were beginning to get lost due to crossbreeding, and so set up the Exmoor Pony Society. This was done in Dulverton in a pub. They formed a stud book to register the purebreds. Thank goodness, they spent several years with experienced breeders inspecting the ponies that wanted to be added to the foundation stud book. Exmoor ponies stand between 11.1 and 12.3 hands. Their coat colour can be dun, bay or brown, no white markings on them at all. They are well designed to cope with the tricky terrain and the harsh Exmoor winters. Exmoor ponies are really stocky, strong, powerful built ponies. They are very resilient, they're hardy, they're sure-footed, they can deal with the difficult terrain that Exmoor can throw at them. They can cope with the harsh winters up there. I read somewhere that they have quite hooded eyelashes which really help protect them when it's very wet or very windy, which I thought was very clever. They're just little powerhouses. They're quite flighty animals. Again, I guess probably going back to when they were hunted, to kind of be quick at getting away from danger. They're also very versatile. Years ago, they would have been used for pulling carts. They would have carried shepherds up onto the hills to check their sheep. They would have been used to carry farmers to market. And of course, nowadays they are used in the show ring. They are used as child's pony. I mean, I'm not sure how common they are as a child's pony now. I mean, I do know of people that have got Exmoor ponies, but I think compared to perhaps other pony breeds, they're not one of the most used child's pony. I mean, they've even been known for being used to plough the fields, so they could do a lot. As I mentioned, they can be a great child's pony and they look beautiful in the show ring, but I read somewhere that it's important that you have someone that really understands Exmoor ponies and is very good at training them, because they're very strong-willed and they can take some training to become a child's pony. So they do make great ponies and they can jump and they can do dressage and they can do all sorts, but they need a good trainer. But that's kind of the case with all horses and ponies. In the years surrounding World War II and just after, the Exmoor pony numbers dropped to critical numbers. Reason for this is thought to be being poached for their meat, and I've also read, sadly, that the American forces used them for target practice, which doesn't bear thinking about. I did read that for those that loved showing their Exmoor ponies and lived down in Somerset, that if they wanted to go to any sort of the big shows, this is kind of before horse boxes were really a thing, or, you know, when horse boxes were only just coming out, that they would have to obviously pop the ponies on the train. So especially for those wanting to go to the big shows like Islington in London or Royal Richmond, they would walk their ponies to the train station, pop them onto the horse box carriage, and yeah, a day out to London it was. I have read quite a bit about train travel and horses, because obviously race horses used to travel on the train quite a lot, hunt horses used to go on the train quite a bit, and it wasn't the most pleasant experience for them. It was very loud, quite bumpy. I mean, can you imagine trying to load them onto that little carriage, you know, the train letting out steam and blowing its horn, and just, it was a lot. But yes, it was the way to get around the country if you did want to really show your pony. Exmoor ponies are used for conservation grazing, as their strong jaw and teeth are great for grazing down at tough vegetation. This helps maintain the natural habitats of the moorland. If you fancied trying to see the Exmoor pony in the wild, you could check out Porlock Hill, Winsford Hill or Withypool. These are often spots for the ponies. There are around 20 different Exmoor pony herds running at various parts of Exmoor. 2 are owned by the National Trust. Many of these pony herds are named after local areas on Exmoor. For example, you've got the Withypool herd, Moorland herd, Foreland, Porlock or Farley Water herd. And some of them are descendants of those original ponies that the warden took at the sale of Exmoor. Alfred Munnings enjoyed painting the Exmoor ponies. He and his wife had a cottage in Withypool, Somerset. I hope you enjoyed that little brief insight into the history of the Exmoor pony. They are a fascinating breed, and like I said earlier, it's lovely that they haven't really changed that much over the years, but my goodness, I mean, there's a lot of people to thank over the hundreds of years that have really protected these ponies. Like I say, just after World War II, their numbers were so unbelievably low. And if it wasn't for people that, you know, like local farmers and stuff who took these ponies and kind of like hid them away so they weren't being poached, so they weren't being used as target practice, made sure that the purebreds kept breeding, you know, we would have lost this breed completely. So, and I think even though they're still technically endangered, I think numbers aren't too bad at the moment. So that's good. And yeah, I'd really love to go and see them in their sort of natural habitat. I think that would be amazing. I have to put that on the bucket list. I will see you again, guys, next week.